Do you follow any online resources from administrative professional career sources? IAAP has great resources online on Facebook and on Twitter, but there are other lots of great resources as well. The one that I'm showing you here is from Office Team. I find their work very professional and great advice, frankly. So I selected one of their articles to share with you regarding project management because I thought it also spoke to this idea of the unique role that we play as administrative professionals. And that's in terms of accountability. We are often the point of accountability for our project teams, our office, within the suite of managers that we support. Whenever there's something that someone needs clarified or maybe something went wrong, we're the ones to track it down, to figure it out, to correct it, right? We're the point of accountability. So from that, knowing that reality, that part of our jobs, how does this affect us when we're supporting projects or project teams? Well, the Office Team resource reminds us that we have to make deadlines our first priority. In the work that we do, that we're required to do for supporting projects, it is those deadlines that we have to meet. So if a project needs to have its scope or goal statement done by June 1st, then that's going to drive the rest of our work. We have to meet those deadlines. We have to make them the priority. I've given you lots of other things to think about. They are great things to do. I don't want to see them fade away or forgotten about, but quite honestly, deadlines have to be our first priority. The second piece of advice that they give us is to always close the circle. And as the AP, this falls to us more than anyone else. Have you ever done this? Can you think of a time where you didn't have the work to do, somebody else had to do it, you sent them an email that said, hey, I need X information by noon on Wednesday, and you sent out that email, right? Your part of the bargain is done. You've reminded that person of the work they had to do. You gave them a deadline. Closing the circle, that means Wednesday at 5, if you haven't received anything, that you're just going to send a little reminder. Hey, I was hoping to receive this information by noon. I haven't gotten it in my inbox yet. Can you let me know if you're still working on it? Or if you have it ready, send to me, something like that. Some APs will take it a step further and they'll send a friendly little reminder on Tuesday. Hey, don't forget, this work is really important. It's key for other things to move forward. We have a deadline of noon tomorrow. If you're unable to make that deadline, let me know now. Otherwise, I'll expect to see it by then. Thanks for all your hard work, so on and so forth. So closing the circle, it's that even though we're not, we often hear this phrase, I'm not your mom, right? I shouldn't have to remind you to meet your own deadlines. That is our job, actually. That is what we do, is support others so that they can succeed. And then you get to pick whether that's sending a reminder ahead of time, following up afterwards, and then even after somebody has sent their submission, checking to make sure that it's the right kind of information that was needed before sending it forward to the other players in the game. Okay, the chain of accountability is meant to remind us that every link in the chain serves an important role, and that's us as well. That we should never think of ourselves, oh, I'm just the administrative assistant. Oh, I'm just the office aide. I can't really say anything. I can't really step up any further. I'm just down here, right? I'm not an executive. I'm not a manager. I'm not the leader of the project. I can't move beyond my bounds. And their advice is, if that's the role that you play, then play that role using all of your resources, doing the best possible work that you can do, that even that link in the chain is critical. Because if any link breaks, right, our chain is broken. So we want to use our position in our link in the chain as best as possible to help this team succeed. And then finally, the buck stops here, right? When it's the whole, this is it for accountability, right? When the ball gets dropped, when something goes wrong, we're not going to look to blame others. We're not going to start to rationalize why it happened. We're not going to provide excuses. We're going to fix it. That's us. We're the APs. We solve problems. We support others. The buck stops here. So if a deadline was missed, That's all right. I'm on it. I'll get that information and I'll get it submitted. If it's reliant on others, I'll remind the other person. I'll convey the importance of that information, right? The buck can stop with me. I can take on that responsibility and get the job moving forward. And then the last one is polish up as administrative professionals. That's why you're here today, right? We're polishing up our skills. No one's making us do this. We do this because we want to be the best that we can be at our jobs. So this last one of polish up, I always chuckle a little because that's why we're here. That's why we're an IAAP member. That's why we're an AP. That's what we do, is we polish up, constantly keeping our skills, our knowledge, our use of technology at the forefront, always keeping it the best that it can be. Okay, I want to provide you one last slide regarding project management because I just love this quote. The last step of every project is to properly document it. And when we live in a world of multiple demands from multiple managers on multiple projects, it is hard to document everything, but do it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be documented. So if you're keeping little Post-it notes because you don't have time to formally type out things, that's okay. Throw those Post-it notes, date it, throw it on a piece of paper, put it in a file folder. Keep track of that stuff. Just document it. Someday down the road, when you have time, you can type it up in an orderly spreadsheet so it looks like, terrific, great work or whatever. But the idea is that you have to document it, because otherwise, look at what Frank tells us, because if by neglecting it, you subject yourself to the cumulative anxiety of partially finished things, right? It's why we wake up at night. We think, oh my God, did I remember to, right? Did we take care of that? I don't have to wake up at night with those questions because I've documented it along the way. Did I remember to reach out to this person? Did I remember to follow up with that person? It's all documented. I don't have to worry about it. Now, if you're not a Post-it notes kind of person, hopefully you've sort of advanced into project management software or tools like Slack that help us keep up to date with our teams. We can keep our little notes in there. Even Outlook, right? We have our task list, our to-dos. We can use our flags, our categories, our color coding to do all that kind of documentation. Whatever system you use that lets you be efficient and on top of it, do it. It's just the fact that you're documenting it. And I really would encourage you that every so often, for example, every 3 months, no more than that, that you do take all those little notes and you put them together in one full set so that your documentation along the way, you can see that progress over time. Now, there are times where I'm a paper girl and there's a time where I'm a computer girl. Most often, I'm on my devices. I'm using my tools. Excuse me. I'm using my technology to its advantage. But sometimes I get sick of being on the computer, and so I'll just designate, like, this is the project I'm just going to be paper and pencil, because I just need a little time away from my computer. And so those are the things that later then I have to type up and translate and put into the computer and put into a document. So just be careful that that's a little more time consuming, but it still is it's a system of documentation that works. So use what works for you, use what's best for you, but document, document, document. Now it's time to turn our angle. Up until now, we've been talking about managing our work via project management techniques. Now we're going to talk about organizing our work, and I've divided this up into several subcategories. Our first subcategory is the space around us, the space in which we work. So because of our changing times, I'm going to talk a little bit about ergonomics for our remote workplaces. A lot of us are working from home these days. We might be working from other places. I don't know about you, but I'm at home with my 2 children who are schooling from home. We're on a stay-at-home order from our governor. And occasionally I need to get work done without all of the distractions of being at home with everybody else, the cat and the dog and the laundry. So I even have taken to driving to my local library and just sitting in the parking lot and using their Wi-Fi. It's peaceful, it's quiet. but I need to be mindful if I'm going to stay there of the ergonomics of that space as well, right? And it seems funny, like, what, you're working in your car, how can you be ergonomic? But there's lots of things that we can keep in mind, whether we're working inside in our home offices, whether we're on our back porch working outside in the open air. Let's always think about the ergonomics of our workspace so that we can maintain our health and wellness. Okay, so first things first, when we talk about ergonomics, it's not always about comfort and just the physicality of our workstation. It also includes setting up a space that allows maximum efficiency and safety. So it's comfortable to sit on the couch with our laptop, but it's not always safe, as the laptop would overheat because it's sitting on our legs or on a pillow, right? That's not a safe place for your laptop to be. So always think about, you can start with this, think about, is the space in which you're working, does it provide you maximum efficiency and safety? Is your chair sturdy? Do you feel safe? Are things secure and well balanced? Then, are your frequently used items near you? And in today's world, that would be your phone, your wireless mouse, your monitor. Do you use other things? As I mentioned earlier, I sometimes convert to paper and pencil, so I do have pads of paper near me, pencils, post-it notes, because I do like to mix it up every once in a while. So I have those frequently used items near and around me. Okay, so that's our first lens, because those points are easy to adjust. Now, how might you get into the more of the details? One of the widely and very popular ideas at play in here is this idea of the ready to go principle, so that when I come to my workstation in the morning, I'm ready to go. I have everything is ready to go for me at the space in which I work. So I'm avoiding clutter. When I'm not working in my car at the local library, I am most often sitting at my dining room table. I don't have an office. Some people have an office space in their home. I don't have the luxury of a separate room for an office. So I sit at my dining room table, and I don't know about your dining room table, but if it's anything like mine, it's where everybody puts everything. So the kids' homework, my husband sets his tools down there, the cat treats are on the dining room table, and it's very hard to get to work and not be distracted by that clutter, right? So now that we're working from home and schooling from home, I've declared the dining room table a clean space. You have to put things away. They don't belong on the dining room table, right? When the kids are in charge of folding their laundry, they have to take it to their room now. They don't get to use the dining room table. It's clutter-free. And then my workstation is set up there and stays there at that one spot on the dining room table, so that I am ready to go in the morning. I can sit down and I'm ready to go. Everything is within easy reach, including paper and pencils, as I mentioned before. I am tossing any unneeded or outdated items. Now, this one's really more for our workstations at work. If you're still able to go into your regular office space, it is easy for things to pile up. Mail, project ideas, things that we get from others, references, books, magazine articles, and we think, oh, I'll get to that later, and it gets stacked up. Go through it, toss, remove it, so that it's not a distraction to you. You want your workspace to be clean and efficient so that you can be your most productive, most efficient self. Okay, what else should we be mindful of? Well, when we're talking ergonomics, there are lots of concerns at play, so let's get right down to it. Computer vision syndrome is right now, it's our biggest concern for everybody, because when we're not on our work devices, we're on our personal devices. And so we have to be very mindful. So here's what I want you to do. Among all the other things you're going to pay attention to, every 10 minutes, and I mean it, every 10 minutes, you're going to look away from your screen. And this is very important when you're working at home. When we're working at the office, we always have lots of distractions around us, right? Somebody stops at my cubicle, or I need to go load paper into the printer, or I'm just going to get up and get myself a cup of coffee, right? I get those natural distractions. When I'm working at home, I'm hunkered down at my dining room table, I'm getting work done, and I'm finding myself 8 hours a day at my computer. And that's terrible for your vision. If I'm not at my computer, I'm on my phone or I'm on my tablet, right? So every 10 minutes, and this is not a hard one, you're just going to look away. If you have the luxury of being near a window, look out that window. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to look purposefully at color in nature. When you're on your devices, the color is being pushed to your eye. When you're looking at the color in nature, your eye is absorbing that color. It's a subtle difference, but it's a difference that your eyes need. If you don't have the luxury of working near a window, bring in a little color from nature. Bring in some plants, buy some flowers. Bring in just a variety of color as best you can. If you can reposition yourself near a window, do it so that you can look outside. If you have the luxury of getting up and walking to a window, that's even better, right? A little movement. We'll talk about that in a minute. Along with computer vision syndrome going left to right, we have the comfort, efficiency, and safety that I talked about earlier. Let's get into it now. Is your chair an ergonomically designed chair? So at work, I have a Herman Miller chair. Love it. Can't recommend it highly enough. It is ergonomically designed. Like, that's their whole selling point. It's an expensive but awesome chair. Where am I at home? I'm on a dining room chair. It's not the right height. It's not the proper length for my feet. It's not ergonomically designed for me, and I can't adjust it, right? It's a dining room chair. So what's a person to do? You can make adjustments even without our fancy chairs. Put pillows down if you need to raise the height of your dining room chair. Often dining room chairs are much lower to the table than our work chairs are to our desks. So you can sit on some pillows. Try to find that nice balance where your feet can rest flat, that they're not tippy-toe, nor the chair is too low, but that's that right sitting point, and that your arms can rest so that your elbow rest is parallel once it's on the table. Okay, so you have a nice supportive chair. It has to be safety. You don't want it to be wobbly, but then play with little tricks to it. If it's too high, is there a different chair in your household? Folding chairs. If you have a folding chair, don't be afraid to go look at that folding chair, and then because they're generally a little bit lower, can you raise it up by sitting on some pillows? Do you need to put some pillows behind your back because the chair is too deep, or is it too shallow? And the other thing I want to talk about here under comfort, safety, and efficiency is when it comes to your physical sitting spot, give yourself variety. Don't think that you have to be stuck if you have a home office, don't think you have to be stuck at that desk. You can go work on the couch. Earlier I was talking about sitting on the couch or sitting in a recliner and getting some work done. If you have a laptop, go do it just to give your body a little bit of variety, but only stay there for like 30 minutes, right? Because couches and recliners, the seating position is really too far back, and that'll affect your back and your neck. So just do it for a little while, or better yet, go sit on a bench outside. Go sit if you have a lawn chair that doesn't put you in an uncomfortable position. Go use that for a little while. Use a stool at a kitchen counter for a little while, just to give yourself variety. And have you seen this neat little trend on Facebook and other places, right? Your new standing desk can be your ironing board if you have it, right? Or you can use your kitchen counter and you can prop up your laptop a little bit to have a standing workstation, right? If you have a wireless keyboard that you can take with you or a wireless mouse. All right, our third one in the lower corner here is our repetitive strain injury. So this is our fingers, our hands, and our wrists. So now that you've gotten your chair to the right position, you have to think about how your arms rest and your wrists rest to the keyboard. You don't want your wrists up and you don't want your wrists down. You want them sort of parallel and at a slight angle to hit the keys properly. If you're a touch typist, that's better because you've already trained your arms to be held up a little bit. So you want to be very careful. And again, here, the trick is going to be variety. So some of us who were put on work from home orders, we grabbed our laptops and we headed out. We didn't have anything else. And so typing on a small laptop keyboard is going to give your hands and your fingers more stress than if you have an actual full-size keyboard. So now's the time to ask your employer if you're only working on your laptop, ask your employer for a full-size keyboard. And again, that'll give it the variety. You can sometimes sit outside and use your laptop and then go back to your full-size keyboard. If you only have your trackpad on your laptop, request from your employer a mouse. It's a cheap little purchase that's going to give your wrist and your hand the variety that it needs. Using your trackpad is going to put more strain on your fingers and your hands. Okay, and then finally is our technology addiction reminder that because we're on our devices more than ever, right? We're at a quarantine stage in where I live, and so I don't get to go see my friends. I don't get to go see my family. So how do I connect with them? I connect with them on Zoom, and I do FaceTime, and I use chat and Facebook and Instagram. So I'm on my devices all the time, and I have to be mindful to get off. Because I'm socially connecting, I feel like, oh, I need that. I need to connect with my sisters and my girlfriends, but I need time away from my technology. So going for a walk by myself, no music, no phone with you, going for a walk, digesting, disconnecting from technology, not even television, not Netflix, none of it, disconnecting from technology a little bit every day, so that we're mindful that we're not giving our bodies overload to the technology. So those economic concerns, there's 4 of them on this slide that I really want you to be mindful of if you are already work from home or if you are transitioning to a work from home situation. Okay, one more slide here under your space, your work. So we had the first slide, if you remember, the ready to go principle, and then we had the second slide, how to be healthy in our workspace. Now's the time to marry those 2 things. How do I find efficient workspaces that also have an efficient arrangement? So you just sort of take a survey of your house. Don't limit, I already talked about that hot new trend working on your ironing board. You can work anywhere that you hit your Wi-Fi signal, right? You could stand at your washing machine and work there, have that as your standing desk. You could prop up a folding table and use that, or a TV tray and use that. Do you have a sewing desk? Do you have a dresser? Think outside the box. Think about where can you work so that you can have multiple locations that are ready to go, that allow you to sit down and get to work. That all you need to do is bring your laptop, maybe plug into a docking station or bring your wireless keyboard with you, and you can shake it up. You can move it around, test your boundaries, try something new today. For a short while, I have a walk-in closet with my husband, and that was the quietest place in the house. And for a short while, I was sitting in there and working because it was so nice and quiet. Well, it did end up driving me a little bit batty because there's no windows, right? And it's a small space full of clothes. But I tried it, right? The point is that I tried it. Try to find those different spaces. And I know that if I have a last-minute meeting, Zoom meeting, I can go to that closet. I can sit down. I know what to do. I know the chair to pull in to sit down and get to work. I know how to create that efficient arrangement. Use your intuition. If it feels like a good space for getting work done, then that's great. Be mindful of your ergonomics and move forward. And always keep in mind to keep it clean and orderly. We're in strange and unusual times, so we're going to make do. But honestly, having a clean and orderly workspace will help you to feel more in control and less distracted. So here we are, mastering our workspaces, paying attention to our health and wellness. How else can we move forward with workload mastery? Well, in this section, I'd like to talk to you about the kinds of tools that we can apply when dealing with our time and our workload. So one of the things that I love about being an administrative professional is that we have a natural affinity towards organization. I see that in all of the APs that I work with, and the APs who are really good at what they do are always mindful of their workload organization. For us in today's world, we're not only organizing files and tasks and projects, we're organizing emails and meetings and project management tools online. We're doing this all with new technology and new apps. And it's in this workload mastery where we can really shine, because at its core are all of our organizational principles, the things that we're already good at. So for example, when you're organizing your email, if you're not already using a system of flagging those messages, you should be. And here's a common system that lots of people use. Flag items that deserve immediate attention. In Outlook, you can use you can right-click and apply a flag, perhaps a red flag for those things that need immediate attention, yellow for those intermediate ones, they could wait a day or two, and orange for things that someday need to get done but don't need your immediate attention right this very minute. Or another system that people use is creating folders within their bigger Outlook account. So one folder could be called Due Today, things that need your immediate attention. Another folder might be called Things that are due this week. And then you file, as things come in, you just file them where they need to be. Another folder might be called things that need to be done done this month. So you have today, this week, or this month, or some combination thereof. What you're doing is you're putting things in categories so that you're not just sort of trying to truck through your inbox, right? It becomes overwhelming when you just try to keep up with messages. You get distracted by things that people make requests of, but maybe they're not so important, right? Somebody sends you an email that more paper is needed for the copier. Well, that's great, but there's 2 more boxes right there, so you know that'll last another week or 2 and you'll put the order in. It can happen later, right? You don't have to attend to it right now. So by using a system of organization, you're attending to things when they need it. The other thing that this helps with is make sure that things don't fall through the cracks. Have you ever done this where you've gotten an email and you thought to yourself, well, okay, I can do that on Wednesday or Friday. I don't have to do it today. But then you forget about it, right? I'll confess, I've been guilty of this. Not often, but every once in a while. And I'll even reply back, oh, sure, I'll take care of that on Friday. And then I completely forget about it. As my inbox fills up, it's at the bottom of that list. And I often try to get to the bottom of my email, but not on a daily basis. I can't empty my inbox on a daily basis, try as hard as I might. So having a system of organization means that my inbox isn't going to be that full. I'm only going to attend to the things that need that day, and I'm not going to let the others fall through the crack, because then things that need to get done that week, I'm coming back to check on those as I've cleaned up what needs to be done today. So when we're mastering our workload, let's take a look at some tools that might help us. I've already mentioned a few of them: Trello, Slack, as we go along, Microsoft Teams, if you're not already using those. Take a minute and do a little Google search for online planners and see what you can find. You want to look at what other people are using, and specifically, I would encourage you to reach out to your IAAP colleagues. What are they using for their online planners versus an online calendar? Lots of tools have both combined, but does that work best for you? You might want to have 2 separate apps. It's really what works best for you. So do also a Google search for online calendar. Again, ask your IAAP colleagues, what are they using? Go out and research some websites, see what other people are saying about the tools. Be sure to look for in either both, or if you use a combined one, what sort of system of alerts and reminders do they use? Can you sync your laptop with your phone? Does it allow for that? And do they allow you to customize the notifications here under alerts and reminders? That might be important to you, that customization, not sort of just a default setting, but can I customize what gets notified and when it gets notified? So I'm going to throw some up on the screen for you to take a look at. And while I do this, I just want to remind you that picking any kind of app or tool or resource or technology is like picking a house to buy or a car to drive. You really have to pick the one that you like. There are going to be ones that your organization endorses, and of course we have to go with those. But sometimes we also have a little bit of leeway, especially as administrative professionals, because we're on the front lines when it comes to technology. We need to use up-to-date technology tools that allow us to get our work done in a really efficient manner. So sometimes our bosses are willing to let us have a little leeway and play with new technology, play with new apps, play with new devices. So you can take a look at these, download them, play around with them, use them, see what they're like, and try another one and compare it and sort of make your pro-con list. So there are some, I'm going to do one more. This last one are the new kinds of customizations that are allowed in our Microsoft Office tools. If you're not already using Microsoft Office 2019 or 365, right, they're sort of the same thing nowadays, take a look and see what are the new features in Office. And you can do a Google for new features in Office, or new features for planning, new features for calendaring, new features for online tools in Microsoft Office. There's just an abundance of information, right? That's one thing Microsoft is really great at, is putting information out there about what tools they have available and how to use them. So all of the things that we've been talking about in this section really speak to our ability. We're managing and organizing our workload as a means to be better at using our time. So let's dive in now specifically to time management techniques. And I hit on this a little bit earlier. If you are working at home these days or working remotely, you need to be more mindful of procrastination than ever. I'm working at home. If you're working at home, now we have things like our laundry that goes off, my phone goes off, and I need to attend to that. The kids might call from upstairs. They need help with their homework, right? I have many more distractions now than I've ever had before. So it's right, when the kids call for help, it's okay for me to put pause on work and go help them. I don't have to say, no, don't bother me, I'm working. But what I need to be mindful of is the amount of time that I help them, and that I need to come back to work, right? I need to come back and get back to it. So setting up a few boundaries. For example, I've let my kids know that I'm not their frontline resource for help, that they can do other things like do a little Google research, see what you can find out, email your instructor, email your regular teacher, see if they can help you, see if they have resources out there in their Google Classroom. You can also, my daughter's a little bit older, she can text her friends, did you have this problem? What did you do to help figure this out? I'm a line of help for my kids, but I'm not their first, right? So I set up a little bit of structure so that I can be mindful of my own time at work, and then avoiding the other kinds of procrastination, so that I've clearly separated out, well, I'll do laundry at night and not during the day. So in that vein, I am prioritizing my work tasks above other tasks. I'm allowing myself breaks to get other things done because I am working at home, right? I don't have to be chained to my computer. I can do other things, but the priority is on my work tasks. And then I'm always mindful of my time management, that I'm not spending hours and hours and hours on one thing, that I'm allowing myself to break it up, get that variety, switch it up once in a while, and still be efficient with my time, that I'm always mindful of the techniques I have for being efficient with my time. What are some more time management techniques? Well, I'd really encourage you to leverage your technology to help you manage your time. So if you have any repetitive tasks, usually as APs, there are some things that we do over and over and over again. Earlier, I talked to you about the importance of agendas. Well, in my organization, agendas look a certain way. So I have to set them up with a certain date, a certain time, a certain footer. I have to put in the membership. So I'm going to look at ways, if I have to do that same thing over and over again, how can I now streamline that repetitive tasks? Well, the first one I'm going to talk to you about is the use of macros, so that if you have a footer that needs to be put into your documents, create a macro so that every time it just pops in that footer. Maybe your footer constantly requires the page number and then the date, or maybe it's the file path, that you have a macro that gets that work done. Maybe in your footer, you always have created by Penny Johnson or edited by Penny Johnson or revised by. That phrase can be typed out by a macro, right? So I'm using macros to streamline those repetitive tasks. Back to this idea of my agendas always kind of have to contain the same information. I use templates wherever possible so that my agenda template has a calendar in it. So all I have to do is select the date. It already has the time because we meet at the same time every week. That it already has my membership already sitting in there, so that all I have to do is strike through absentee members, right? So I'm setting up templates, and then I have a clean template for that ready to go. Templates are a great time saver. And most of us use them already, but I want you to think about how can you use templates even more efficiently. Okay, and then don't forget the use of your online groups. Are there things that you can do as an Outlook group to save you time? Instead of recreating a calendar appointment with the same group of people all the time, if you create an Outlook group, you can just create an appointment for that group right away. Or perhaps it's a Microsoft team that you can then you don't have to pop everybody's email in to set up that calendar appointment. You could just use those online groups. SharePoint is another terrific way, so that instead of sending out an invitation, all you're doing is reminding people to go to SharePoint and look at the agenda before the meeting on Wednesday or whenever it is. So leveraging your technology to help you master your time. That's what we're talking about in this section. So there are a few other time wasters. We've already talked about procrastination. Interruptions are a big one. And the way to handle interruptions is to put structure around when that interruption happens, whatever it may be. My husband comes home from work. He works an odd schedule where he's done at 1:30 in the afternoon, and he comes home and he's done with work. So he wants to talk and tell me about his day, which is great. I want him to, right? And I'm going to spend time with him. So it's an interruption that I welcome, and that's when I schedule my lunch. I take a little bit later lunch break so that I can be ready for him when he comes home. But then I have to put structure around that. After about 20 minutes is when I start reminding him that, I got to get back to work. I'll catch up with you when my work day is done, right? I have to put structure around that interruption. People that if there are people who are constantly pulling at your time, think about ways in which you can make them self-sufficient, right? It's the old adage, teach a person to fish for themselves. Wait, how does that go? Now I can't remember. Don't hand them a fish, teach them how to go fishing or something like that, right? That when they're pulling on your time, if you have people who are constantly asking questions, how do I do this? How do I do that? Give them the tools so that they can be the fisher person themselves, right? And that can be creating how-to handouts, resources, finding online tutorials for them so that they can be fulfilled in doing it themselves. And part of what you're doing there is you're giving them the tools to succeed. Remember, you're not trying to offload your work. You're not trying to push them away. You're trying to help them be a master of this sort of new normal that we're in. Anytime you have unfocused work, you have to be very careful, because there are times where we're given work that comes to us without a lot of clarity. And you want to be able to, right from the get-go, set up structure to help you understand where that work is going and what boundaries need to be made for that work. So if you're given a project with a lot of uncertainty or without focus, start from the get-go to try to build a framework and better understand the structure so that you can move ahead proficiently and quickly, understanding the parameters that are at play. So in the final segment of today's presentation, let's talk about what all of this means for our careers and our work. We're administrative professionals. Managing and organizing our work is something that is critical to our roles. But as our workplaces evolve and change, what does that mean for the heavy-duty changes we're experiencing right now? And for the long-term career path, we have seen our careers evolve over the years, and they will continue to evolve in the years ahead. So what do we need to keep in mind for the important administrative professional trends? Well, I'd like to share this first idea with you from Office Dynamics, another great online resource for administrative professionals. They remind us that technology is prevalent now more than ever And this was issued before the stay-at-home orders were put in place. And we've seen it over the years. Technology has changed us. Think about the last few years, about how we used to plan travel for our executives. It is not what it was, right? I now have an app that I can use for my entire executive's itinerary, planning everything from transportation, the airplane ride, the hotel bookings, all of it within one app. It includes the map, the timeline, the directions. So even that one task has been totally transformed by technology. Administrative professionals, I can remember when I began my career, administrative professionals did not have to use technology. It was sort of tangential. We were valued for the knowledge and the expertise that we kept inside. And now, one of the things that we're greatly valued for is for our ability to leverage technology that will help us to be more proficient and efficient. So let's take a look at some of the technology trends that are with us in our careers and that are being applied in these new trends. So we know the need for our technology skills will grow. If there's one thing that's true about technology, it never stays the same. Today's Microsoft Teams will be replaced by something else. And that's okay. It's not our job to be an expert at a specific kind of technology. It's our job to be able to adapt technology to our needs. So whether it's Zoom or WebEx or GoToMeeting, remember when GoToMeeting was it was the way to do video conferencing? Now nobody uses, well, it's not the most popular application. And then a couple of other quotes here. 43% expect proficiency in mobile media. That's on our horizon, that what we have traditionally done on our laptops, we're now doing on our phones. That you may have to support executives or colleagues to attend their remote meetings, not on their laptops, but perhaps on their tablets or their phones. That mobile technology is huge. And we see that all over our workplaces, that all of the technologies that we're using in the cloud, we're now adapting to be able to use on our phone as well. Another statistic here, 33% of employees will be able to be proficient in the cloud in 3 years. And these statistics, again, were published before the pandemic. So I expect these numbers, and I'm not exaggerating, to at least double. Think of all of the work that you do in the cloud, either a Google Drive or a OneDrive or a SharePoint or something like that, right? Our organizations are now dependent on our cloud services. And so there's no need to go back. We're only going to go forward. And again, as administrative professionals, we're not required to be the expert in SharePoint. What we need to do is understand how are we using the cloud to help us be productive and efficient, right? Doesn't matter if it's Google Drive or SharePoint or whatever. We'll learn the technology, that we're good at that. We'll learn the tool and we'll be able to use it. But the way that we shine is by being able to say, hey, whether it's this technology or that, I know how to leverage that technology to help me be better at my job and to help support others to shine in their jobs. Okay, this other administrative professional trend is the one I'd like you to leave with today. I'm sure you've heard this before. It's a very popular topic in our field. And that's the idea that we're not a support worker like we used to be, right? I used to be the person who was in charge of my executive's calendar. I had to place appointments on there. I had to set up meetings and schedules, and I was in control of the calendar. Nowadays, that's not true. My executive is very proficient at his calendar. He can schedule appointments and set up times and know what's on the horizon. Rather, I'm his administrative partner. So what I can do is leverage my time and talent and the technology so that we're sharing that calendar. So when I need to book meetings with other people for my executive, I know maybe who takes priority and whose calendar could be adjusted. I know who is essential to be at that meeting and maybe who's optional, right? So we're sort of coming full circle of using the technology, being valued for our knowledge, all in combination, that we really are now starting to see ourselves and working in a manner that shows we're an administrative partner to our executives and to the people that we support, our colleagues and so forth. And this goes back to this whole idea of how we worked in our project teams as well, right? I wasn't just the support for that project. I was really working in such a way that I was a partner to that team, to sort of twist the phrase a little bit there. I was working in partnership with them to help everyone succeed. So with those trends in mind, let's move forward and remember that we need to maintain a sense of work-life balance. We see this all over the place now with the pandemic, that we're trying to remember that it's not all about work and it's not all about ignoring work, right? That we're really trying to find this new kind of balance because the line is so fuzzy. I'm working at home. Lots of people are working at home. Lots of people are working remotely. How do we find this new sense of balance when I don't have a physical difference between work and home? It's all in the same place now. The number one thing to do is take care of yourself. So pay attention to your body, your mind. Honor what you're feeling. We have to get work done, right? We've spent an hour talking about projects and deadlines and priorities. We need to maintain our careers, but we also need to pay attention to ourselves. And some of the ergonomic advice that we shared earlier will be helpful, but also just being mindful of what brings you joy, what brings you peace, what can you do to help take care of yourself, eating healthy, taking time outs, doing meditation, whatever those things are. I talked a little bit earlier about setting boundaries around your relationships to help you define your workplace, but also think about what do you need to do to tend to your relationships. That'll help you also in your life and in your human progress. What do we need to do to manage those relationships? Is it just checking in with one another, giving a phone call or sending a text, sharing pictures online? Does that help us sort of make sure that those relationships are staying strong? You're not doing that always for the other person either. Think of it in terms of what do you need to do to maintain that relationship to help yourself feel good, checking in with family members and friends. And then what are you doing to cope with the stress these days? It's an unusual type of stress that we're finding ourselves in. Lots of it is coming from the stress of the unknown. I'm here at home working. I don't know when I'll get to go back to my office. I don't know what my next month will look like. I sort of have an idea of maybe how the upcoming month will look like, but the month after that, I have really no idea. And that uncertainty is what's causing my stress currently. There's also uncertainty with financial decisions now because I don't know what my work will look like, right? So I have to recognize that I have new and different stressors in my life and then find ways to manage those stressors. So with the fiscal uncertainty, taking time to look at my family's budget and our checkbook balance and just to see what are our options out there. What do we need to be prepared for? What things should I be thinking about? That's just going to give, I can't really change anything about whether I get furloughed from work, but it can give me a sense of control over. Now at least I know. Now I have knowledge that sort of gives a person a sense of control and can reduce that stress. And then you can also do other things. If you are worried about being furloughed from work or laid off from work, start investigating filing for unemployment claims. Connect with others. Maybe you have family members or friends who've been through that already and could give you some advice. Even just a little thing like updating your LinkedIn profile and starting to connect with others professionally just to sort of lay the groundwork for that. Doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit. And the idea is you're trying to do work that gives you a sense of control to reduce the stress so that you're not constantly worrying about the unknown. So those are some tips and tricks for trying to maintain a new life balance in this in this new normal, this different time that we're in. So we've been through a lot today. You have earned your 2 recertification points. This is an enormous amount of information. We started out by taking good notes, and then I sort of backed off, reminding you to take notes and just letting yourself sort of absorb, consider, and ponder the different points that we've covered. If you have any questions, you are welcome to email me at any time. I thoroughly enjoy connecting with my administrative professional colleagues. So let me review our summary and then we'll talk about how to connect online. So self-discipline is essential to ensure productivity. And guess what? That's one of the other things that we're really great at, is being able to carry on. We hear that a lot about administrative professionals. We have that ability to carry on throughout changes and different workplaces and changes to our work life. We're very good at finding and using organizational aids like planners, online calendars, and managing our workload. The trick today is just to think about new ways, maybe spend a little time investigating how to apply those organizational aids online or in this new remote environment. And then don't forget to make use of your downtime. Here on this slide, I say including multitasking and assisting coworkers, but I'd like you to consider using your downtime for those things that we talked about, your ergonomic health, looking outside at nature, getting up and going for a walk, maybe investigating things like your budget and things that can help you reduce the stress. Using that downtime maybe for a little yoga or stretching or eating healthy to maintain that wellness in these very strange and different times. You can also offer those things out to your coworkers. We really work in a wonderful time where if I find something that's helpful to me, like a little yoga or meditation YouTube video, I can share that on my Facebook page so that my colleagues can pick it up, or on Twitter so that I can share it with my friends and family, right? That I can do that sort of relationship tending while also sharing good advice that I find helpful for my own use. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I love connecting with my administrative professional colleagues. I am so grateful. I have a wonderful local chapter of IAAP, but IAAP is so extensive, our network across the many states and nations, that we get to connect with each other all the time. So feel free to reach out. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I have a profile on LinkedIn. I do have a very generic name, so your best bet for finding me is using the phrase Penny Johnson, Madison College, and I'd love to connect with you. I share administrative professional tips and resources all the time because we just have a wealth of information out there online. And as I also mentioned earlier, that if you have any questions, you are welcome to email me. I'll follow up with the chapter to make sure that everyone receives their certification points, and I'll do that via email. So you'll have my email contact information and you can reach out to me at any time. I also have my email address on the screen, and I provide my college's webpage if you'd like to Google for more information about our administrative professional degree and how obtaining college courses or a college degree might help in your job security or your long-term career growth. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was a wonderful opportunity for us to connect, share ideas, and move our careers forward. Good luck in everything you find in your future.